I can't hear you.
There we go. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. We can hear everybody.
Folks, welcome to the most professionally run show on YouTube. Vikings Report Rewind. I'm your humble host, Ted Glover. With me are my usual partners in crime, Christopher Gates, the original writer, founder, grand poobah of the SB Nation Vikings blog, the Daily Norseman. My partner in crime, Drew Bunning, with Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. And behind it, making this magic work at some point in time tonight, we got it all figured out.
It ain't magic yet. No.
Is Ruby and thanks everybody for joining us. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Gentlemen, how are you?
Let's go back to the start of the 15-minute countdown, see if we can hit the intro.
Well, we're fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No,
good plan survives first contact with the enemy. Murphy's first rule of combat. Chris, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing all right, Ted. Doing all right. It's a big day in Viking land with the depth chart coming out. We got preseason football coming up on Sunday, and yeah, we're here to talk about all of it as long as the audio and the video hold up. So great to be here.
I think we're cooking with oil right now. Drewster, my friend, how are you?
Are we on the air? Ted, life may be chewing me up and swallowing me, but Drewster, I'm like a piece of corn. I'm hard to get rid of.
There's no nutritional value in corn whatsoever. None. Zero nutritional value in corn.
I think Chris liked that opening. What do you think, Chris? Chris Gates is here tonight. Chris Gates is here.
That was outstanding. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
All of our audience is still there, right?
I hope so. Yeah. Folks, welcome to our live August Palooza. It rolls on.
Yeah.
As you know, we've got a promo on our YouTube page, Vikings Report, Drew and Ted. We are live every Wednesday through the month of August. The last Vikings pregame show, we're doing a live watch show. We'll be live for the whole game.
Yeah.
If you haven't yet, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You can also follow us in audio podcast format on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on Facebook, follow the show Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. On Twitter at Report Ted, 2 T's, REPORTTED. Follow me at Purple Buckeye. Chris is at Daily Norseman. Drew is the only smart one of the bunch, and he refuses to get on Twitter. And God bless him for it.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to the depth chart and the game preview, look, I got a couple quick more announcements. On our normal Vikings Report show, we're doing a Rook Dog Challenge, and I didn't really talk about this last week, but it goes on. It ends the Thursday, the kickoff of the Thursday night game on September 8th. But we want you to enter, and to enter, all you have to do is put in who you think is going to be the NFL Rookie of the Year, the defensive, and the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, not the Vikings players. If you think it's a Vikings player, that's fine, but it's for the entire NFL. To enter, you could just make a comment in the live chat tonight. You can make a comment below after the show ends. You can put it in any of these shows we have in August, and as long as your entry is in and recorded before the kickoff on the Thursday night regular season opener, you're entered. The winner gets a $100 gift certificate, but you have to pick the NFL Offensive and NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year.
One-time entry too, Ted. You can't change it.
That's right. One-time entry. Once you've entered, you can't change it. So if you want to enter tonight, that's fine. But just keep in mind, there's a lot of training camp and preseason games left. And if somebody gets injured, then you're kind of out of luck. So we've had a few entries, but we think most people are going to wait towards the once preseason's over and the regular season's getting ready to start. We're giving away a prize tonight too. We gave away like 52 last week, or maybe 4. I don't remember.
Yeah, we did.
We gave away a lot. Tonight we're giving away one prize. To enter in the prize, all you got to do is make a comment in the live chat. Just say, "Hey, how you doing? What's up?" Chris has a pretty nice goatee going. Whatever your comment's going to be, we don't care. I like Drew's hat. He's wearing beads. Whatever the comment is.
Or Ted Glover rocked it on his guest appearance on Score North. You could write that in there if they wanted to.
I did not, but thank you.
You did great. You did great. You did great.
Although if you do the goatee thing, you win automatically. So
well. A little curveball to the rules, but we'll play. Sure.
That's not an official rule or anything, no.
So yeah, just make a comment in the live chat tonight. Ruby's compiling all the names. Last week she had this. I'm going to call it the Wheel of Destiny. It's a computer program, puts everybody's name in the wheel, spins it at the end of the show, and that's the prize. It's now that our prize vault for Vikings Report, Drew and Ted, is be replenished. She'll send you a link. Just email her at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She'll send you a link. You can pick a prize. So
prize vault is growing, Ted. What do you think of that prize vault?
It's better than Fort Knox, man. And
it's pretty loaded this year. Pretty loaded.
It's probably more valuable than Fort Knox too, because there's no gold in Fort Knox. But that's a conspiracy theory for another day. One more thing. We are taking questions tonight. If you've got a question for Chris, for Ruby, for Drew, for me, ask it in the live chat. Ruby will send it my way, and we'll answer it to the best of our ability.
Yes.
All right. Enough of that. Let's talk football, boys.
Okay. Let's do it.
The Minnesota Vikings released their first unofficial depth chart, so we're going to unofficially look it over. Dun, dun, dun. And we're gonna start at the position everybody's curious about, quarterback. Not necessarily Kirk Cousins. He's a given. When the Vikings released their depth chart today, they said the second string quarterback is Sean Mannion or Kellen Mond, much like its Vikings report with Drew or Ted, or Vikings report rewind with Drew or Ted or Chris or Ruby. So I don't know who's QB2, Chris.
They are going to run a 2 quarterback offense instead of Cousins. But like those times when the Vikings would line Christian Ponder and Joe Webb up in the backfield together, and they would fake a handoff to Christian Ponder like that was going to fool anybody. Yeah, but no, I honestly don't know. I've said on DN a few times that the Vikings need to give Kellen Mond every opportunity to win this job. Because if he can't, he's going to be a wasted pick. And, Sean Mannion, we've seen Sean Mannion. I think we've seen enough of Sean Mannion, quite frankly. But, it's going to be interesting to see who gets the second string snaps in Las Vegas this weekend. I'm hoping it's Kellen Mond. But, apparently they're going to let this battle go all the way through training camp if they have to.
Drewster, what are your thoughts on Kellen Mond or Sean Mannion as the backup quarterback?
Did he say 2 quarterback system? What are you, June Jones? Is Craig June Jones? We're going to run 4 quarterbacks tonight.
Gonna shuttle in the quarterback every other play, like what Dallas used to do with Don Meredith and Craig Morton or whoever the heck it was.
Ted, I dug up a quarterback tidbit. I wanted to get this out of the way, and I know it's kind of old news. Mm-hmm. Remember Kyler Murray, who likes the video games?
Yeah, I didn't
get a chance to mention this last week, so I'll take 30 seconds to mention it now. I did a little deep dive on the whole thing. Kyler Murray, before the release of Call of Duty every year, 14-5. Kyler Murray, since 2019, after the release of Call of Duty every year, 9-17. I'm just going to leave that there.
Video games are a thing, man.
Yeah, they sure are.
Mond, first thing, if Cousins goes down, the season's shot. We don't have any quarterback that's going to lead us to a Super Bowl.
Okay,
and
that's fair.
I'm in agreement with Chris. I think Mond should get all the snaps in the preseason. I am really worried about Kellen Mond because everything that I did on my drafts research seems to be showing up at training camp. The slow process of where he's going with the football, the slow process of digesting everything that's coming at him, not looking off the safety, all the things that bothered him at Texas A&M. I don't think he's the guy. I hope he proves me wrong this preseason and lights it up, but it's I don't think either one of these guys is the future. But we got to find out in the next month what Kellen Mond is really about.
I agree with both of you guys that Kellen Mond should get the bulk of the preseason game action. I'm also kind of in agreement with Drew after reading and following news coming out of Egan and training camp. I don't know that he's got it in him to be a viable QB2. That said, it's still very early and something, sometimes the light just comes on and you go to bed one night and you don't understand anything and you wake up the next morning and it just all hits you and things go from there. So let's we've talked about Mannion. We know Sean Mannion is Sean Mannion. And I don't think anybody thinks Sean Mannion is a viable, realistic option as QB2 or QB3. Let me ask you guys this, and Drew, I'll start with you. Is QB2 currently on the Minnesota Vikings roster, or will they look at a guy after the 53-man cutdown list is after the initial cutdowns hit? and teams get to 53-man rosters, or will they look at a free agent like the legend of Kyle Sloter? I'm kidding about him.
Boy,
I think that
That guy's been cut more than a teenage emo girl.
now we are ready to start the show.
All right. All right, Drew. So honestly,
what the
let's
hell
get
did
back.
he just say?
Do you think QB2 is currently on the Minnesota Vikings roster? Or are they going to look outside the organization?
The only way they're looking QB2 is on the roster. The only way they're looking outside to bring somebody in, and it won't be Slaughter or whatever his name is if Cousins goes down for a considerable amount of time. Then you're going to have to go to the free agent. I'm telling you, neither one of these guys are ready to lead the team, but they are ready to be number 2. One of these two guys is the number 2 quarterback. I don't think they're going to go outside and look for anybody else.
Chris, what about you?
no, I basically agree with Drew on this. I think either Mond or Manu is going to wind up being the number 2 guy, if only because, you spend an entire offseason installing an offense with these guys. And if you try to go somewhere outside of the organization, you're going to have to try to reinstall the entire offense. And then you get Josh Freeman, which is really, really bad.
Chris!
Chris! Yeah, I know. We all tried to forget the Josh Freeman game, and I brought it up, and I apologize, but that's
Who was that against? Who was that game against?
The Giants.
The Giants.
Monday Night Football, man.
Monday Night Football.
Wasn't that weird thing when they played in a different city or some shit? Wasn't it?
No. That was Giants Stadium Monday night.
Josh Freeman. Yeah.
You're thinking of the Joe Webb game in Philadelphia that wound up being on a Tuesday or
No, we won that game. We won that game.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Because of Antoine Winfield. Yeah. But QB2 is on the roster. It's just a matter of who it is.
Okay. I honestly think if Kellen Mond continues to struggle, and we know the limited ability of Sean Mannion, I think the Vikings may look for somebody, and I'll have to go look and see if there's guys that Kevin O'Connell may have had a working relationship with in the past, either in Washington or in LA. But it wouldn't surprise me if they go out and get somebody if both these guys continue to struggle.
Case Cookus.
He's got at least Mond has a better shot with Kevin O'Connell than he did with Mike Zimmer last. At least he got a chance to do something.
100% agree there.
At least Kevin O'Connell knows that Kellen Mond exists, which is a huge step up from what we had last year.
A lot of the things that bothered him at Texas A&M are the same things you're seeing now at camp. So I don't
just processing what's going on in the field.
When it comes to speed of the game, usually that's something you can't change. And if he doesn't, I don't know how he's going to pick it up. We'll see. I'm excited. I'm going to be excited to watch him Sunday.
So we'll move on from quarterback. We'll go with running back. I think that looks pretty cut and dry based on the first depth chart. You got Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, and Kene Nwangwu. They got Ty Chandler and Brian Koback, and then you got for fullback you got CJ Ham followed up by Jake Vargas. I don't think there's really any surprises there, guys. Do you?
No. It doesn't seem that way. Nwangwu, I know they're going to try to work him into the offense more, but yeah, he seems to be pretty clearly the third guy at this point.
You think Ty Chandler's on the outside looking in right now?
Yeah. What about him?
No, I think he made it.
You think what?
I think he's the way the Rams ran their running back room. I mean, they didn't have a Dalvin Cook, obviously, but they had a tendency to spread the carries around a little bit, and I think Chandler is somebody that the Vikings like for the long term, and I'm not sure if they're going to want to risk losing him potentially. So I think he makes it. I don't know how much he plays. He might be inactive on Sundays, but I think he gets on there somehow.
Let's move to wide receiver. This is kind of a little bit interesting when it came out. The guys at the top are the guys at the top: Jefferson Thielen, KJ Osborne, Amir Smith, Marset. When you get to the third string, you've got BC Johnson and Myron Mitchell ahead of a guy like Jalen Naylor. Chris, is that a surprise to you, or does maybe not BC Johnson, but Myron Mitchell? I'd being ahead of a guy like Naylor or even Tristan Jackson, who came in with some smoke as an undrafted free agent.
I mean, Mitchell was with the team last year and did some stuff in the preseason, but when you're looking down the 90-man roster at times like this, he's basically been one of those guys who's okay. No, yeah, he's here. But now he's like one of the top 6 receivers, apparently. I don't know if he's going to stay there. Apparently, he's been having a really good camp from everything I've seen from the folks on social media and whatnot. But there's a long way to go yet. And I've heard a lot of good things about Naylor at this point, too. So we're going to have to see if this holds all the way through the preseason here.
One thing, and this kind of surprised me because I've seen Tristan Jackson's name mentioned. I've seen Jalen Naylor's name mentioned. I hadn't really heard Myron Mitchell's name and BC Johnson, and maybe I've just missed it. Wrong place, wrong time, not on social media, not reading the right stories. I haven't heard BC Johnson mentioned one time yet this training camp. So that name was kind of a surprise to me, Drew. Was it a surprise to you where he is in the depth chart?
Yes, very surprising to me. I mean, I know he's actually one of the guys that's had some time here, some really in-game regular season time.
Mm-hmm.
But, it seems like a dime a dozen receiver, if you ask me. I mean, a lot of people are a lot more higher on BC Johnson than I am. But it's the 4 you mentioned, they're shoe-ins. I mean, and Marsette's going to run back punts, right? He's pretty much the punt returner.
I think so, yeah.
As of now, yeah.
As of right now, yeah.
You got Mitchell and Naylor. I like Tristan Jackson, man. I really like that guy. They're keeping 6 or 5.
Chris, what do you think?
Well, your top 4 are basically set in stone with Jefferson, Thielen, Smith, Marset, and Osborne. If the Vikings are going to run more 3 wide receiver sets, ideally you're probably going to want to keep 6. And I don't know which 2 out of those 3, whether it's Naylor or Mitchell or BC Johnson or someone even further down the depth chart. I know Blake Pearl is still on the pup list. I don't know if he's actually going to have any sort of impact or anything like that. But I think if the Vikings are going to try to run more 11 personnel this year, you need to have that 6 guy on the roster just for depth purposes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I think Naylor's got the spot. I want to say this about Tristan Jackson. He went undrafted in 2020, but 2 days after the draft, he was picked up by the Rams and Kevin O'Connell. So O'Connell has a little bit of a background with Tristan Jackson, guy from Syracuse.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's him and Jalen Naylor that make the last. I know BC Johnson will probably get one of those spots, but
that's kind of a spicy hot take. Tristan Jackson and Naylor over BC Johnson on the outside looking in.
Tristan Jackson certainly needs the work. He has trouble tracking the ball. Sometimes he gets confused on where he is on the field. He'll be like out of bounds catching passes and things. When you watch him on tape, he seems a little confused, but it's all coachable things that McCardell can work with him on. But I think Tristan Jackson could be a nightmare matchup in the slot for it. I really do. He has a tendency to find the open parts of the zone, and he can blow by guys. He runs a 4.5, but it's a fast 4.5. He's really good at getting open. I like receivers who have the smarts to get open, and Tristan Jackson knows how to do that. Watch him. I hope he gets on the field Sunday.
I'm sure he will.
Looking at the wide receiver depth, comparing it to just like maybe even 2 or 3 seasons ago, when you got past either Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, there was a dearth of talent. It was kind of a wasteland. I mean, if Chad Beebe was the guy that the coaching staff was hyping, you kind of knew you were in some trouble. And now, you compare that to now, and you got like legit, I think, 8 dudes that can make a claim for being on a 53-man roster. So this is a very interesting battle to me. Who was it?
Yeah.
I think Reggie Adams that asked us, Reggie Adams asked us, what is our favorite training camp battle? For me, this is mine right now. The wide receiver battle, the back end of the wide receiver, how that's going to flesh out. And if whoever doesn't make it, if they can kind of sneak them past waivers and get them onto the practice squad, if that's an option.
I agree. Also, when I was a bass player, my nickname was Dearth. So I'm glad you brought that up. I was a dirty ass bass player. Let me tell you.
All right, moving to tight end. Irv Smith Jr.'s out, but he should be back by week 1. But let's panic and come up with a bunch of stupid trade ideas on social media. But after Irv Smith, you've got Johnny Munt, and then Ben Ellison is ahead of Zach Davidson in the depth chart, which was a mild surprise to me because I'd heard more smoke about Zach Davidson. Chris, is that a surprise to you, or is that making sense?
It was a little bit. I mean, because we saw a few practices ago. I think it was there even during some of the 2-period time that Davidson was out there making catches and making plays and whatnot. And the Vikings drafted him because he was one of those small school guys that had all the freakish athletic talent and whatnot that you have to try to mold into an actual football player. But I mean, I know Ben Elfson was all right. I think he's more of a blocking tight end than Davidson would be. But yeah, it was a mild surprise to see Davidson that far down on the depth chart, I think.
Drew, thoughts on that? Yeah, okay.
Agree with everything Chris said. The Irv Smith thing is really, it's big though. It's big because how the Vikings plan on using him and disguising him and having him out in the field, just from a mental standpoint of having defensive coordinators going, this is a nightmare having this guy out there because they got the 3 wideouts. We don't know what Smith's going to do. It takes away a lot of the mind stuff if he's not playing. So he's got to get back on the field. We need him this year. But everything Chris just said pretty much covers how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I'm surprised Ellison's ahead of Zach Davidson, but long way to go. You know, we haven't even played a preseason game yet. All right, boys, let's move to tackle. We'll go left tackle and right tackle, then we'll deal with the interior offensive line separately. Your starters are pretty much set in stone. You got Brian O'Neill on the right side, Christian Darrisaw on the left side. Backing up Darrisaw is Blake Randall, which really isn't a big surprise to me. And then on the right side, backing up Brian O'Neill, you have Oli Udoh. Chris, is that a name that just strikes fear into the heart of men, or what?
Absolutely not. Not anymore, anyway. But yeah, I think they pretty much disqualified him from the guard rotation. So yeah, the logical spot for him to be would be as a potential swing tackle. I mean, he does have the experience at both tackle spots. If because Rashad Hill is no longer going to be that guy. He signed with Washington. I was pretty high on Vidarian Lowe, but I don't know if he needs another year to be that guy or not. But I mean, if you're going to have somebody that needs to step in occasionally and start a tackle, you could probably do worse than Oli Udoh. But at this point, he's not a guy you want to rely upon, I don't think.
Drewster, thoughts on the tackles depth right now?
Ted Glover. This is the most susceptible, if that's the right word, part of the Vikings team right here.
Okay.
Go ahead, read me those names after Brian O'Neill, Ted. Read them right now.
The backup to Brian O'Neill is Oli Udoh. Third string is Timon Paris on the left side. Backing up Christian Darrisaw, you've got Blake Brandel listed at second string, and then Vidarian Lowe, rookie out of Illinois, third string left tackle.
We're going to walk into a big pile of doo-doo if those 2 starters go down. And they're going to be great starters. Like you said, top 10 probably at the end of the year. They are 2 bookend, maybe 2 best tackles in the league.
They might be the best tackle combo in the NFL come
the Vikings
season end. I think those guys are quality starters.
The Vikings are in trouble if one of those guys get hurt. These backups are not quality players. They're not. They are not quality. Never step in. You don't want Oli Udoh out there playing at all. You don't.
I think Blake Brandel could be okay for a couple games. I think he's kind of a poor man's version of Rashad Hill. I'm okay with him as a backup. But yeah, Vidarian Lowe, and like when you get to the third string on the offensive line, those guys seem to be on the outside looking in. So do you think Lowe has a chance to overtake Udoh?
Yes.
Or Brandel?
Vidarian Lowe is the best backup offensive line. Well, not in the interior. The best offensive tackle that we have right now. I think he's not ready yet. Needs to be developed. There's things he's got to work on, but he's going to end up he's the best player out of the guys that are in the reserve. I'm telling you, man, Darrisaw and O'Neill have to stay healthy, Chris, or this team's in trouble. They're in trouble. We don't have the backups to cover over there. We don't.
No, we're hosed if those guys go down, and we're hosed pretty hard. I totally agree with that.
And it's depth is a big concern there. Let's go to the interior offensive line. Left guard, Ezra Cleveland, pretty much set in stone. Right guard, it's looking like Jesse Davis. And center is Garrett Bradbury. And we had a question the backup. Let's see, the backup to Ezra Cleveland is now Chris Reed, who they were talking about as potential competition at center.
Right.
Jesse Davis's backup on the right side is Ed Ingram? I got a couple things. One of them is a question from our good buddy and friend of the show, Doc Proto. He asks, what week do you think Ingram will be listed as a starter?
Ted?
Me? You want me to answer that one first?
No, I'm with you. When you said it like 3 weeks ago, you said he's going to be the starter for your spicy hot take. I got on the wagon then, and I am still on the wagon. Drew.
I think by week one, I mean, he was working in with the first team today, and I was kind of fired up about that. I think he's going to be the week one. I think he's going to be the starter at right guard sooner rather than later. Maybe I might be wrong on week one. I'm going to stick to it, but I think sooner rather than later. Chris, do you think Davis is going to hold off Ingram for that right guard spot?
No, I'm with you guys. I think Ingram starts week one because he's going to be the best option. The Vikings took him in the second round to plug him into that spot. And, like you said, he's already working in with the ones, and he's gonna take that spot. He's going to be the week one starter at right guard.
Guys, what's going on at center?
Well, this is a question I want to throw out there because our another friend of the show, Nick Howard, has asked this. Do you think we make a trade for a center, pick one up off the streets, or is the new center on the roster? Drew, do you think Garrett Bradbury is going to be the center week one? First of all,
I did a month ago. Now I'm pretty shaky on it. Listen, the only reason Garrett Bradbury's still in the mix for this whole thing is because he was a first round pick.
Okay.
If Garrett Bradbury would have been a third round, fourth round, he wouldn't even be on the team anymore. But when you invest in a first rounder, they get a longer leash. Let's face it, guys, they get more chances than the other guys do. And that's what he's gotten, chance after chance after chance. He hasn't really improved much. My whole thinking is, say Bradbury is not the guy. And apparently at camp, he hasn't been the guy. Say you replace him with Chris Reed or whoever. Just because you replace a guy doesn't mean that guy's any better.
Well, see, and for all of Bradbury's struggles, we read almost every day that he gets forklifted or pancaked by Harrison Phillips. But then you read about Chris Reed when they were playing him at center, and he has trouble snapping the ball. So, I mean, to answer Nick's question, if I personally, I think they're going to give Bradbury as much of an opportunity as they can afford until it becomes obvious he is an abject liability.
Your center has to be on a scale of 1 to 10, he has to be an 8.5 or a 9. Your center is important. Your tackles are important for the edge rushers, but your center runs the blocking schemes. He's the guy that directs the whole direction of the offensive line.
Calls the adjustments. Yeah, sure does.
Yeah, center is the guy. So if you take, say Bradbury's a 5 or a 6, you can't have a 5 or a 6, pull him out. The guy you're going to put in there, if he's a 5 or a 6, if he's not a 9, then what good is it?
Can they scheme around Bradbury's weaknesses to minimize him as a liability, Chris? Or because, look, the Vikings with Bradbury, who was not good, the Vikings were still a top 10 offense last year.
True.
So can you, with an offensive-minded coach, can you scheme around his weaknesses? Maybe put more rollouts, more waggles, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to get into technical stuff, but there are things you can do, I think, if you have a guard or a tackle. But when you're dealing with interior pressure right up the middle, I don't know. Chris, do you think this is something the Vikings can mitigate?
You might be able to a point because, you talk about rollouts, waggles, whatnot. If you're calling too many of those, that limits your offense regardless of your offensive personnel. You can't call a rollout or a waggle on every snap. It just doesn't work.
Right.
Because, he's the guy, Drew said, right in the middle of the line, center of attention, literally, calling all the protections, calling all the changes, whatever. I mean, there's only so much you can do at that spot. And I don't know what the Vikings are going to be able to do if it turns out that he's not going to be the guy. I mean, his whole story is that he's been good against the run, good getting out in space, but in the pass game, he gets smoked. And this is going to be a more pass heavy offense. So I don't know if they can scheme around him that much. And I don't know what the alternative is. So, I mean, they're kind of stuck here, I think.
Okay. I think the new staff is going to give him every opportunity to succeed. They had success, or Kevin O'Connell had success in LA with a center very similar in build and makeup to Garrett Bradbury. The guy's name always escapes me when I talk about him.
Brian Allen.
Thank you, Brian Allen. You always save me. You always bail me on that. Thank you. Brian Allen had not been very good last year. They figured out ways to make him at least not hurt the offense. So I still think that's their approach.
Which is the definition of scheming around it. What you just said.
Yes.
That's pretty much the definition of it. But they are going to try to work with him, Ted. But let's face it, how many waggles are you running with a quarterback that has the movement of Fred Sanford?
No, I get.
I mean, Stephen Hawking moves better than Kirk Cousins. You're not running a lot of waggles with Kirk Cousins. If you're running a waggle, the coordinator's going to feast on you.
At some point, yeah.
They're gonna go for it. If it becomes too much of a hellacious problem, then they'll probably go to free agency. But you guys are gonna feel good about Schlotman being in there instead of you're gonna feel that much better about him than Bradbury.
At this point, I don't know. I honestly don't know what they're gonna do, other than go with Garrett Bradbury.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And that pretty much does it. Fullback CJ Ham. We all kind of thought in the offseason what's Kevin O'Connell going to do with fullback? He apparently loves CJ Ham. CJ Ham's going to make the roster. They're going to do cool stuff with him. That's really, I think, pretty much it.
One more thing on the offensive line before we move on. Here's
you bet.
Pouring one out for Wyatt Davis. Because,
Wyatt!
Let's talk Wyatt Davis. Yeah.
Come on, Wyatt!
That dude's not making the team. Sorry, he's not making the team.
I agree with Chris 100%. Wyatt Davis is not making the 53.
I went out on a limb for that guy a bunch of times, Chris. Bunch of times. And he's a Buckeye. He's a Buckeye. So that makes it even harder for me to go down on that limb for a Buckeye.
Damn it. But he's buried at this point. I mean,
what is the deal with him?
Mike Zimmer thing. Who knows?
What is the deal with him, Chris? What is wrong with Wyatt Davis?
No idea.
It's mystifying to me that a guy, and this is kind of like two interior offensive linemen the Vikings drafted from Ohio State in a row. Pat Elflein and Wyatt Davis. I mean, they were so good in college, and they have been so bad in the NFL. And Wyatt Davis is not going to make the 53-man roster at this point.
That is shocking. That guy murdered people in the Big Ten. Murdered them.
Yeah, he did. The guy was an absolute mauler, and he's not even going to make a roster, which boggles my mind.
Trippy, bro.
All right, so that does it for offense. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. The Vikings depth chart is based on their new base 3-4.
Meow meow.
We'll deal with outside linebackers first. On the one side, I believe it's the right side, is Danielle Hunter. Is that correct, Chris? Is Danielle Hunter on the right side with
I believe so, yes.
Was Darius Smith on the left side? Backing up Danielle Hunter, you've got Patrick Jones, second string, then Luigi Villain and Andre Mincy. And then backing up Zadarius Smith, you've got DJ Wanham, Janarius Robinson, and then Zach McLeod, respectively. What are your thoughts on this new outside linebacker core where you've got former defensive ends now lining up as stand-up linebackers, Drew?
I'm feeling good about this group.
Are you?
About the outside linebacker group. Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how many games I'm going to get combined out of Zadarius Smith and Hunter. I mean, I don't know what the over-under is on that. If it combined, if they had 30 games, I'd be really stoked. I think somebody's going to miss some time somewhere. But, I'm hearing the camp that Patrick Jones is putting in, guys. He's just been on fire, man. And that's a good sign. And DJ Wanham is a proven factor. DJ Wanham played pretty good last year. I'm pretty happy with the OLB group they got going there, Ted. Chris?
There's been some buzz about Zach McLeod, even though he's down on the fourth string on the depth chart at this point as an undrafted free agent. I mean, this is one of the most important positions in this 3-4 defense because obviously that's where a lot of the pressure is going to come from. And they also have to have that ability, more so than they would have had in a 4-3 to actually kind of drop off into coverage occasionally. I mean, I don't anticipate Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter playing a lot of coverage, but they do have that ability, and so do the guys behind them. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they rotate some of these backups in during the preseason and how the whole thing shakes out.
We were talking about how worried we were at the tackle position on offense. When you look at the backups to Daniil Hunter, Patrick Jones the second, and then when you flip that over to Zadarius Smith and you got DJ Wanham, those are pretty good restaurant quality backups that if something happened,
right.
You talked about that they could come in and be okay for 3 or 4 games. And I think Patrick Jones, long term is going to be a pretty good football player for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you compared it right there. That's the worry I have with the offensive tackles. They don't have those kind of guys behind them.
Exactly.
So that's really great that you brought that out, Ted. It's that's exactly how I feel about it. Your OLBs, your outside guys in the 3-4, they got to be athletic. They got to be super athletic, which Zadarius Smith and Hunter, those guys can adapt to any kind of defense. But if they're not athletic, you're going to suffer on the 3. There's a lot of holes that could be in the 3-4, but it could be a dominating defense. But I do like the group so far, that group.
Now, if there's a kind of an interesting thing with the defense, it's the way they've set their depth chart on the defensive line. Let's look at that real quick. You've got defensive end. They've got one defensive end is Armon Watts. The nose tackle is Harrison Phillips. And the other defensive end is Dalvin Tomlinson, which was kind of a surprise to me, Chris, because I thought Dalvin Tomlinson was more of an inside nose tackle guy, or am I obviously wrong on that?
No, that's exactly what I thought it was going to be too. I thought Tomlinson, just because of his size over Phillips, I can't remember exact Harrison Phillips is listed at weight wise, but I know Tomlinson is about 330 or 340. So I figured he would be the guy inside on the nose and Phillips would be outside. But, I guess they like Harrison Phillips at the nose better and Tomlinson on the outside. Maybe he has the ability to handle that. I can't remember what all we did with the Giants or even at Alabama. But, yeah, it's I was a little surprised by that, too. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was.
That's where Tomlinson flourished with the Giants, is when he was playing outside. They got him at the right position now. That's where he should be. And Phillips should be at nose tackle. They got it set perfectly. And Watts, Phillips, and Tomlinson, they're going to handle that gashing in the middle that's been killing us for the last 2 years. It's killing us.
Now the primary backup to Phillips is TJ Smith. The primary backup to Dalvin Tomlinson is James Lynch. And then again, backing up Armon Watts, you've got Jonathan Bullard. And then Jalen Twyman they have down at third string. Is that kind of a surprise to you, Drew?
Yes. I think he will be the guy that rotates in first we got 32 days today. In 32 days, Twyman will be seeing the field.
You think so?
Yes. That guy has more drive than all. He's the first guy out of practice. He's the last guy to leave. And when everybody leaves, he goes off the field. Hey, let's go get a beer. Oh, yeah, let me go do some bench presses first. That guy is going to come opening day. He'll be the guy that gets rotated in. Believe me.
Jalen Twyman is a dude I am 100% rooting for. If for those of you that don't remember, he was drafted, I think, in the 7th round last year. Had this insane workout video that hit Twitter right before the draft, and not too long after the draft, he was shot several times. He was just literally in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was an innocent bystander. Spent last year on IR and has come back 100%. I want this dude to tear the NFL up, and I hope he gets a lot of playing time on Sunday against the Raiders.
We did extensive breakdowns on him, Ted. Vikings Report. We did. Him and Patrick Jones, they played together over at Pitt. So
I mean, the kid's only 5'5", but no, I'm kidding. He's taller than that. But he's not. The dude is stacked. He's like muscle upon muscle upon muscle.
And
I just want this dude to do well.
Gnarly work ethic. Gnarly, as Jeff McCauley would say.
And you gotta like the confidence, because if memory serves me correctly, he's got the John Randall, Kevin Williams jersey number here. So that's
he's wearing number 93. Yeah,
trying to fill. Yeah. I want to see a number 93 out there just pummeling people for the Vikings again.
So let's move to inside linebacker.
But before you get there, I have a question for you two. I have written on the paper. The Vikings finished the season last year second in quarterback sacks with 51. The Steelers had more. Only team that had more. How the hell did they have 51 sacks without Hunter, Zadarius Smith? How the hell did they do that? And the bigger question is, besides how they did it, if they got 51 last year with all these upgrades, Got to be excited about that, right?
I'm very
Definitely.
fired up about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got 51 sacks last year. How?
The power of DJ Waddle, man. I mean, dang.
Who the hell was out there? I don't know. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, one of the guys that was out there was Eric Kendricks, and he's one of your he's your middle linebacker with Jordan Hicks lined up as a weak side linebacker, and those guys apparently have been working very well together in camp and have sort of setting the tone. You've got Harrison Phillips that knows those two set the tone in the middle, and that by all accounts has set set the Vikings up to have a potentially very good defense. And then you add Darius Smith on one side and Daniil Hunter on the other. And guys, I'm getting kind of fired up about this defense. The more I read about it, the more I hear how they're doing in camp. Chris, what are your thoughts on Hicks and Kendricks? And backing up Hicks is Brian Asamoah, Drew, your boy out of Oklahoma. And then backing up Eric Kendricks is Troy Dye. And then after that, you got Lynch, Surratt, and William Quinquiu, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Drew said on several of these shows before, they brought Hicks in because he's a tackling machine. He's durable. He doesn't miss games. Kendricks has had some injury issues over the last couple of years, but he's still pretty solid at what he does. And yeah, I mean, now that he doesn't have to cover quite so much space in the middle of a 3-4 as opposed to the 4-3, I think he's going to return to more of the Eric Kendricks we've been used to. I'm excited to see how him and Hicks work together in the middle of this defense, and how they, like you said, kind of set the tone for everything else.
Drew?
Ted, as I looked over this depth report that came out today, my second most worrisome position, man, was middle linebacker.
Really?
When you look at me, yeah, and I'm going to explain why here. Middle linebacker, you got the great Eric Kendricks.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is, I don't care if people say his game fell off last year. It didn't fall off. Look at the numbers. 143 tackles? Didn't fall off. Kendricks was keeping that team together with his leadership. I'm worried about going from Kendricks to Troy Dye and Chaz Surratt.
Okay.
I am kind of wondering why Brian Asamoah wouldn't be considered for an inside linebacker position, which he did play at Oklahoma. And if you talk to the coaches at Oklahoma ran a really complex defense, really hard to learn defense. You don't learn it on the fly. And to a man, all the coaches said there's only one guy that gets this defense who can figure it out quickly on the run, and that's Asamoah. So I'm kind of wondering why he wouldn't be penciled in as the middle linebacker just because of his intellect and his capability. We talked about read and react opposed to read and think and react. If you have to think, you're already behind.
Yep.
I'm kind of shocked that he wouldn't be. He's played a little bit of inside linebacker as a Sooner. So I don't know. Going from Kendricks to Dye seems like serious. Don't you guys see it like that?
Chris, go ahead. What do you think?
I mean, obviously they don't have quite the same skill set. I mean, I think ideally that you want Asamoah to be the primary backup to both spots. I mean, I don't know if that's how it actually works because they can't, list him in multiple spots on the depth chart, I don't think. But yeah, I agree. I think Asamoah is a guy they're high on. And I think if something happened to either Hicks or Kendricks, regardless of what the depth chart says, I think Asamoah will be the first guy out there ahead of Troy Dye. That's after seeing Dye play for a couple of years, and he's gotten better since his rookie year, obviously. But I just think Asamoah will be the first guy out there if either of those guys got hurt. They just need to have the depth chart set up the way it is.
I think in several of these positions, they have the veteran ahead of the rookie just because he's a veteran and probably knows the system or has better NFL work habits at this stage of their career than the rookie does. I would bet by the time a couple preseason games have been played, a lot of this is going to fluctuate. And a lot of these guys, cream rises to the top and you're not going to be able to keep, if a guy like Brian Asamoah is as good as you say, Drew, he's going to move up the depth chart and he's going to play. That's kind of how I see it.
I see it like that. Arif Hassan doesn't see it like that, but I see it like that.
So, and then, one other thing we kind of touched on Wyatt Davis on offense is one of those mystifying third round picks, third string middle linebacker behind Kendricks and Dye. One of last year's, another third-round pick Chaz Surratt. Really didn't see the field much last year. I think he was inactive just about every week, and he is kind of buried on the depth chart. He's another one of those guys that just doesn't seem like he's going to make the roster at this point, which, again, kind of surprised me from a third-round pick.
I don't care. I hear other shows. You hear people say, Chaz Surratt, he's not in. He's odd man out. Get him out of here. The guy hasn't even been given a chance yet. Can we at least get him on the field, see what he's got before we just say,
Sure.
Because Zimmer didn't use him, he's terrible? That's ridiculous. Let's see what he does this preseason before we write him off.
Okay. I'm with you on that.
A lot of people are ripping that guy. You can't rip him if he hasn't had an audition yet. He didn't get a chance with the Vikings last year. He didn't.
That's true. Yeah.
No, I mean, I kind of agree with that. I mean, it kind of flies in the face of everything we just talked about with Wyatt Davis and whatnot. And I understand that, but I think they should both get an opportunity. I just don't know how much of an opportunity either one of them is going to get. I mean, it is kind of frustrating seeing these guys that are taken in the first 3 rounds of the draft, not developing, whether it's because they're not getting the chances or whatever the case may be. It's just frustrating because, generally if you draft guys in the first 2 days of the draft, you expect them to contribute. And, Davis hasn't contributed, Surratt hasn't contributed, Mond hasn't contributed. It's just frustrating to watch. It really is.
Yeah. So
Ted,
moving, yeah.
What do you think about Surratt, Ted?
I don't know. He feels like the defensive version of Wyatt Davis to me at this point. He just does. Right. I mean, I'd like to see him get some play and just, prove one way or the other. Yes, they can play or no, they can't. But I
think that's what we all want.
It just feels like those third round picks that we were kind of high on last year at the end of the draft have just been all monumental busts to this point.
Could have played them last year.
Well, yeah, I could have. And if my aunt had a set of nuts, she'd be my uncle. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well, we got to figure it out because the season's right around the corner, guys.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll hear some with these. We'll find something out with these 3 preseason games. All right. Wrapping up the last couple of positions at cornerback, you've got Cam Dantzler and Patrick Peterson as your starters. Shannon Sullivan backs up Patrick Peterson, your presumed nickel guy, and then Andrew Booth Jr. Backing up Dantzler with a Caleb Evans and Chris Boyd as your third string dudes. You guys probably on the outside looking in: Perry Nickerson, Harrison Hand, Nate Hairston, and Ty Smith. Drew, what do you think about the cornerback position? You happy with it or not?
Yes. The corners and the safeties. You can group them all together and give me a big high five, Ted, because I am happy with the upgrades at corner. Man, I think that's a group that was at one time a couple of years ago really suffering.
Yeah.
That's one of the fattest groups we have now. I mean, besides wide receiver and maybe the corner group, I am very happy with because not only we got talent with the Dantzler's coming on. He's everything we thought he would be a couple of years ago. Him and Peterson, we got great guys pushing them. We got at corner what we don't have at tackle. We got a lot of good players. I'm excited about it.
That's good. Chris, do you think the depth is making sense, at least at corner for you? I mean, are you happy where they have Sullivan over at Caleb Evans right now?
Yeah, I think Sullivan is where he's at on the depth chart just because he's the presumed nickel/slot cornerback. I don't know enough about Caleb Evans to know if he has that ability to play the slot for someone that's kind of a bigger cornerback. But I think everything on the cornerback depth chart makes sense right now. Obviously, Peterson and Dantzler are going to be your starters with Andrew Booth missing so much of the offseason program. And I like Caleb Evans a lot. We've talked about him quite a bit. Chris Boyd is one of those guys. He's trying to become Marcus Sherrills 2.0 because we try to cut the guy every year, and every year he still somehow winds up making the team. And and he's gonna hang on there until somebody comes along and basically pries his spot from his cold dead hands. But everything seems to be lined up at corner as far as I can see. I like it.
When I was still writing over the Daily Norseman with Chris, we had a running joke every year when when Marcus Sherrills was on the team. It was, the only thing at the end of a nuclear exchange, the only thing that's going to survive are cockroaches and Marcus Sherrills. You can't,
and Twinkies.
and Twinkies, cockroaches and Marcus Sherrills. You just can't. You couldn't kill Marcus Sherrills
and Keith Richards. I mean,
Keith Richards, yeah.
Keith Richards was here when everyone got here.
We haven't had a good stinking punt returner since Marcus left. Come on, man.
We'll talk about that here shortly because that's something to be addressed.
And safety looks maybe a little bit of a surprise. They got as starters. They got Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum. Backing up Smith, they got Josh Metellus. Backing up Bynum, they got Lewis Seen. Do you guys see that in week one, or Chris? Do you see Lewis Seen overtaking Cam Bynum at some point?
I think Seen is nominally going to be the guy on the depth chart by week one, but if they're going to run as much three look as it's going to try to run this year, I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference. I think Seen and Bynum are both going to see plenty of snaps this year, so I'm not as wrapped around the axle about that portion of the depth chart as some of the other ones.
Drew, what do you think? You think Seen is going to be week one starter over Bynum or not?
I do, but when you package together Hitman, Seen, and Cameron Bynum, I know Ed Donatil is stoked about those three guys because of the versatility and the disguising, playing them around the line of scrimmage. Who's going to be two deep safety? One deep safety with two guys wandering about the line of scrimmage, only two safeties on the field. Who's going to be strong? Who's going to be whatever? I mean, there's so much you can do because all those guys are so smart. And Harrison Smith, his intellect is going to be leading all of them. The safety position has to have Ed Donatil fired up. The Vikings are sitting really good at safety.
I think so too. I think the secondary, much like you said earlier, Drew, about wide receiver, is a position that was other than maybe Harrison Smith a couple years ago, really didn't have a whole lot of talent in it. And I think the talent influx over the last couple seasons has been pretty substantial. I'm pretty fired up with the secondary. And that was the weak link for this defense last year. You talked about how many sacks the Vikings had, and it didn't really matter because Bashad Breeland was playing 12, 15 yards off a guy, and the quarterback could still get the pass off and move the chains and keep the drive going. It was just ridiculous.
In all my years, I've never seen a team that finished second in quarterback sacks finish 30th in defense.
Yeah.
If you're second in sacks and your defense finishes 30th, that means your secondary was bad, guys. It was bad.
Yep, sure was.
I don't know what they have after those three guys, though, Ted. I mean, they got Metellus and what's the other guy? Miles Dorn.
Miles Dorn. They got backing up Harrison Smith. They got Josh Metellus, the second string, and Mike Brown third.
Metellus will make it. He's Michigan.
Backing up Bynum. They got Lewis Seen and Miles Dorn.
Michigan guys know how to make the team, Ted.
I hope they cut Josh Metellus now just because you said that.
They make the team, not get Wyatt Davis.
So that's the offense and defense. Real quick, special teams. Greg Joseph is having a hell of a camp. Everybody's singing his praises. That means he's going to miss a 27-yard field goal wide left in the NFC Championship. Punters Jordan Berry. Your long snappers Andrew DiPaola. Your kick returner right now, they got Kene Wangwu backed up by KJ Osborne and then third string Ty Chandler. Right now, your punt returners are Amir Smith-Marset and then Jalen Naylor backing up Smith-Marset.
So I wanted to bring this up. I mentioned it to you guys in the pre-show or whatever. The punt return thing worries me. It does.
Why is that?
Because you look at the Vikings have had a lot of great returners. I mean, we had Percy Harden, Cordero Patterson. They were great kick returners, but the punt return game is a completely different animal.
Sure.
The kick return game is because kick returns, you're back there a ways and you get an opportunity to kind of survey things or whatever. Punt return, you're trying to make sure you don't get killed and that you field the ball cleanly, and you got guys like bearing down on you right away. In college, Amir Smith-Marset returned 0 punts in 4 years at Iowa. Didn't return a single punt. Jalen Naylor at Michigan State returned 8 punts and hasn't returned one since the 2020 season. So either they think that they can get these guys the instincts needed to be punt returners right away, or we are in big trouble in the punt return game. I mean, I know both those guys are great athletes and could potentially do great things, but this isn't the kind of skill set that just pops up overnight. It's something that that's why Marcus Sherrills was such a great punt returner. He had that processing ability, whereas Cordero Patterson and Percy Harvin were great kickoff returners, but they just didn't have that same ability to process the information as quickly as Sherrills did in the punt return game. That's what made him quite easily the greatest punt returner in Vikings history, because he had that ability to diagnose what was going on.
Drew, does the punt return game bother you or worry you as much as it does Christopher Gates Esquire?
That was really, really well said by Christopher Gates Esquire. Christopher Jericho Gates.
Yes.
I think a lot of people look at the punt returning as being, it's no big deal. Who cares about the punt returning? But it is a big deal. It does matter. It matters a lot. Changing field position. Having a guy back there you can count on is not going to drop the ball. That's why you look at Sherrills now. That's what made him. That you look at now what his career was, and you a lot more respect for what he did.
Yeah.
Just an amazing punt returner, but I think it kind of goes overlooked. We'll take what we can get type of thing. I don't think you should look at it like that. Punt returner could be a great weapon for you. Look at Dante Hall and some of those other Billy White Hughes Johnson. Those are great weapons that those teams use. And I think I would like to finally see somebody come forward as a punt returner since Marcus Sherrills and actually do something. We had that guy a couple of years ago that averaged 1 yard a punt return or something.
Yeah, like our buddy Ryan was just saying 2 years ago the Vikings had 87 punt return yards.
87
entire season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping one of these guys. I'm concerned like Chris Gates though. You got a guy that's never done it at Iowa. And Marset, that's a hard thing to learn. It is a different animal. It's a very tough position. It's a tough thing to do. People think, catch a punt and run. It's tough. It's a very hard thing to do.
We'll see how a lot of inexperience there. Hopefully somebody will step up and take ownership of the position and it'll solve it, but we'll see. So for now, that's kind of the Vikings depth chart up to the moment. Probably going to change more than once between now and the end of the preseason. And speaking of preseason, gentlemen, we got football this weekend.
Oh my God, football this weekend, guys. What the hell is going on?
The Minnesota Vikings travel to Las Vegas to take on the Las Vegas Raiders. And they will once and for all avenge Super Bowl 11. or not.
Can somebody cover Fred Biletnikoff? For God's sake, for the love of God, can somebody cover Biletnikoff? Why is he running free?
And thus ends the competitive phase of Super Bowl 11.
McClanahan! How could you give it to McClanahan?
I just want to go on record as saying that the Raiders Stadium looks like a giant Roomba.
It does. It looks pretty cool. I've got a daughter that lives out in Vegas, daughter of one of my grandsons, and it's a cool looking stadium. If we didn't have something going on this weekend, I would have liked to go out and see the game. But anyways,
it looks like a Roomba.
It does. It looks cool though.
It does look like a Roomba.
So preseason week 1, when we get to the regular season, Drew and I are going to have our big board back for like we did last year. Preseason is just a little bit different animal. I honestly don't care about individual positional matchups, guys. I don't know if you do. My philosophy is just see how the backup guys look and get out of there with injuries. Does anybody? What are you thinking, Chris, for this preseason game? What do you want to see this Sunday?
Whenever I do my DN previews for preseason games, like just about the only thing I put under the keys to the game is I just hope nobody gets hurt, because you don't want anybody to suffer some kind of injury, because then you got to scramble and that kind of thing. But the primary thing that I care about is that everyone comes out relatively healthy with no real issues or anything. But it's an opportunity to see what the backups are going to do and see because there's still a lot of churn at the bottom of the roster, bottom of the depth chart for guys that still may or may not make the 53. I mean, we talked about the wide receiver position, the guys that are still fighting for spots there, and guys that are fighting for spots at other positions. So it's that's what I'm going to be looking forward to. I mean, no injuries and seeing how those guys at the bottom of the depth chart fare here.
Drew, what are you looking for in preseason week 1 against Las Vegas?
What am I looking for, Ted? I'm just glad football's back. Thank God.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's injuries. You don't want to have any injuries. That's really all I care about when I watch preseason. I used to, when I was a kid, I wanted to win the games, and I get pissed off when they lost the preseason game. Got to win the preseason games, but if you lose 40-0 and the Raiders lose 3 starters and we don't lose any, we won the game. That's kind of how you got to look at it. I want to see Kellen Mond. That's probably my number one, and then all the rook dogs. I'm big into watching the rookies play. This is a big adjustment for the defense. I want to see if the defense is walking around confused, if they seem to be getting the defense, because this is a big thing. This switch over to the 3-4, new coordinator. There's only 5 starters coming back on the defense, 6 new guys. So this all wraps around the defense. So I'll be watching the defense closely to see if guys are reading, reacting, or reading, thinking, reacting, seeing how the rook dogs are doing. But on offense, it's all about Kellen Mond. I want to see what that guy's all about, and this is the beginning of it all. But in terms of the game, I mean, you go to Raiders. You guys watch that Hall of Fame game, Raiders?
No.
What the hell is McDaniels doing? McDaniels is out there running Josh Jacobs like 35 times. What? It's a preseason, bro. He's your main running back. He's out there in the third quarter running. What is he doing?
Speaking of that, though, I mean, I am kind of curious as to see how much the starters are going to actually play, because I believe it was our friend Warren from DN pointed out earlier today that for the last 4 seasons, the Rams played 0 starters in the preseason. Now, I understand the Rams weren't, adopting a new offense or a new scheme or anything like that, but I'm kind of curious to see how much Kevin O'Connell wants to run the starters out there during these preseason games.
Great point. It's a great point.
As opposed to giving these guys, the younger guys, more of the time.
Do you think it'll be more because they have to learn?
I mean, I'm sure they'll play them a little bit. I mean, they won't completely bench all the starters like the Rams did, I don't think, because, you got to give them some opportunities to get the timing down and that sort of thing. But I don't think they're going to see extensive time this preseason, the starters, I don't think.
I'm thinking maybe they'll play one or maybe 2 series, but that's it, if at all. But then again, they've had a good preseason so far, good camp up to this point. Very good points. Very interesting to see. Like Drew, I want to see Kellen Mond play a lot. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. I just want to see him play. Ty Chandler's a guy I'm going to be watching on offense.
Yes.
The back of the wide receiver depth, I'm gonna really be paying attention to. BC Johnson, Jalen Naylor. I'd like to see Jalen Naylor get some playing time. On defense, just the 3-4 overall and the new Ed Donatel defense. How is that? Like you said, Drew, does it look like those guys know what they're doing? Do they look confused? Do they look like they are executing the game plan as asked? Calling or running the plays as designed, and from there on defense, if there's a guy I'm looking at, it's Jalen Twyman. I just love that kid. I want to see him do well.
Hell yes.
Sack or 2. But like you both said, the key for me is get out of there with no injuries. If they lose 20-0, but they get out of there with no injuries, I'm fine with that. I don't care. I don't really care what the final score is. I just want to see when week 1 hits that the starting 22 that they project now are going to be there on the roster.
They lose 20-0. The next day it'll be that Kirk Cousins. He can't lead us there. That Kirk Cousins.
Quite possibly, or it could be all on Kellen Mond if he has a terrible game.
I want to watch that Ty Chandler too, Ted. Yeah. That guy is exciting on tape.
Langwu and Chandler, I think, are going to be a lot of fun to watch in this game.
This is an exciting team. We have an exciting team going into this. I haven't felt this way the last couple of years. I got a list in front of me: 10 free agents, 10 draft picks. That's 20 new people. I don't know if they'll all make the team, but we got an influx of excitement coming in, guys. This is going to be exciting to watch.
I think it will.
Absolutely will be.
All right, before we get out of here, I almost forgot this last week. We gotta draw our prize winner for this week. Ruby, if you want to, again, Ruby's going to draw the prize or going to spin the wheel. Let us know who the prize winner is in the comments. And if you are the winner, go ahead and contact Ruby at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She will send you a link to our priceless prize vault. And you'll be able to pick out a prize from our prize vault. While she's doing that, we'll wrap it up with any final thoughts that you guys have. Drew, let's go ahead and start with you.
Excited about this team.
What are your overall thoughts on the depth chart? You like it?
Wait,
Hey, you guys.
Yeah.
Real
It's the
quick.
Deucers.
Yeah.
It's me. Do you mind if I spin the wheel and share the screen so everybody can see?
Yeah, go
Hey,
ahead.
Terrence, you can spin anything you want, lady.
Hey,
I
hey,
promise.
hey, this is a family show.
I
Oh, here we
promise
go.
not to screw this up. Okay,
Oh
ready?
my God! Look at that. I see Freebird on there.
Here we
Is
go.
that- Is
Here
that
we
Leonard
go.
Skinner? Oh,
Wheel
this
of Deucers.
is
Why,
too much.
why is it green and yellow? Why is it Green Bay color?
I don't like it.
I don't
I don't
know.
like Green Bay colors. I don't want them.
There we go.
All right, Raymond Hoagland, you're the winner.
Congratulations, Raymond Hogan. You're the
Nice.
winner. Get a hold of Ruby. Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com.
That's pretty fancy, isn't it?
I like it. We need it purple and gold colors, not this.
Well,
Green
we'll get
Bay
that worked out. But
garbage.
we like prizes here, don't we?
We
In
love
Vikings
prizes.
Report, we like to
Love
give away
prizes.
prizes. We're excited. I mean, look at Chris Gates' face. That's excitement right now, isn't it?
It's not fake enthusiasm either. That's the real thing.
All right, Drew. Let us know what. Again, let's before we did the prize thing. What are your thoughts on this depth chart and this team?
The offense, I think, will be rocking. I don't think we really need, if we stay healthy on both sides of the ball. The Vikings' demise this season is going to be depth. If they fall apart, people, and they end up in the shitter, it's going to be because of depth. Otherwise, you could put our starting roster up against the Bills, the Ravens, the Buccaneers, the Rams, anybody you want. The Vikings have a good enough starting roster to get to the promised land. You can mark that down. I've done my research.
Chris?
Offensively, I think they're fine. I was talking to Dave Stefano, who's over there at Climbing the Pocket, who produces 900 shows a week. You know,
He
Dave.
does.
Dave,
Hardest working man in show business.
he might be here right now watching the show. I don't know. He said he sent me a message the other day saying, "Is it crazy for me to think 35 points a game is out of the question?" And I said, "No, it's not crazy. It's not crazy. I'm more of a 27 to 30 point, but I like where Dave Stefano's thinking. He's not crazy. I think he makes a lot of sense. But if we're scoring 35 points a game, we're winning a lot of football games.
Yeah, we are.
And the defense, I can't tell you how excited I am about getting this thing rolling with the defense, guys. With the scene in Booth, Asamoah, Harrison Phillips. We got all this influx of new guys coming in. It's just exciting because that defense was putrid last year.
It was terrible.
This is going to be a work in progress. And there might be guys standing around week 1, maybe week 2 of the preseason against the Niners, maybe week 3 when we do our live show against the Broncos. But they will figure it out eventually, and they will be flying around. And we got the right guy in charge of the defense. We got the right coach. I am excited to see simply Zadarius Smith and Hunter. You take those two guys and just track those two guys. How many sacks? I called for 40. They stay healthy, they're going to get 40 sacks.
We'll see.
So I'm
We
excited
shall
about
see.
the team, and I'm excited to finally watch the Vikings Sunday, and I hope you guys all watch Sunday.
Chris?
I absolutely agree with Drew. I mean, that there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to look forward to. All the new talent, all the new faces, new scheme, new offense, new coach, new everything. It's still got that new car smell, and it's pretty awesome. I'm going to enjoy this season. I think we're all going to enjoy this season quite a bit, and I'm pretty excited for it as well.
Yeah, for me, I echo a lot of sentiments you guys had. I'm really looking forward to these new young players, the new talent that's come in, the Ed Donatel scheme. How is that going to translate? How's that going to play? Again, if this defense just improves to middle of the road, 13, 14 ish, this is a 10 or 11 win football team, easy. And if they get into the top 10 and the offense can maintain from last year and cut down on their 3 and outs, this team's contending for home field advantage. They just are. I don't see how you can't be fired up about this team right now. I mean, look, let's wait till October and they're 1-5 before we get down on these guys. I mean, because it could happen. They could be 5-1. They could be 1-5. There's a new coach. You have no idea. But man, at least you can't look at this roster and all the potential on it with a new young coach and a new young GM, and they're all on the same page, and all this gloom and this dysfunction from last year is gone. Everybody's pointing in the same direction with the same vision. First time in 3 years. I'm fired up. I think this team has a chance to go a long way this year.
They do. They do. Absolutely.
That's why I don't understand the gloom right now. Be fired up about your team. You got 4 months to hate them.
Yeah.
Like them now. Why don't we all get an agreement that we're all fired up now and we're excited?
All right. I am. It sounds like Drew is. I know, Chris, you are. Ruby, thanks for doing all the producing you did tonight, running the contest. Ray, don't forget to contact Ruby. I think she sent the email out there. Folks, for Drew, for Chris, I'm Ted. We had an absolute blast. Don't forget, we're going to be live all month. We'll see you next Wednesday, same bat time.